Welcome back to Master Data Management 1. In the previous video, you learned about the different data quality steps we have available to use in the MDM platform and even set up the business rule step for your MDM solution. In this next video, you will learn about the fourth and final component of a model, which are tags. A tag is a component of a model that specifies a rule for categorizing golden records based on their data. Essentially, we can group together golden records based off of a specific piece of data found within any golden record. We can see an example of a tag on our screen now. A tag is made up of three parts. We have the name, which is the visual identifier a golden record will receive if it meets the requirements for that particular tag. Next, we have the input, which is a particular field within each record that you want to tag to monitor. This field is based off of the model it's attached to. And finally, we have conditions, which are the rules that you set up to identify whether the record is included in that tag or not. In the example that we see here, we are setting up a tag to look at the phone field within our contact model. If that field contains either the string 512 or 737, then the golden record for that particular contact will receive the tag Austin, TX on its golden record. The tag will actually allow you to lump together records and can be filtered from the Steward tab. We're going to discuss tags and their possible uses in more depth within this upcoming exercise. So now I'm going to hop back into the MDM platform and create my tags and then submit the SFDC records again in exercises number 23 and 24. This way we will be able to see how our new data quality steps will affect the records coming in from SFDC. So feel free to follow along in the activity guide and you'll have plenty of time to try it on your own after the video has completed. So I'm going to go ahead and hop back into the MDM platform here. And in order to add your first tag, go ahead and click on the Tags sub-tab next to the Data Quality sub-tab. And as always, you have the Add Your First Tag large green button noted here on the screen since this is our first tag. So go ahead and click on that in order to add your tag. So the tag is actually pretty easy to configure. In our scenario, we actually want to identify specific golden records, which are contacts, who have all of their mailing information go to an office building. So rather than their own establishment like a small business, these are going to be things that are in places like identified as suites or rooms, units, things like that. So what I'm going to do is give it the name of office in building, and that way we can find it later when we search for it. And then the input we want to use is going to be our mailing street. Once you've found the mailing street, go ahead and click OK, and you can see that the input has been inserted here. The next thing we want to do is change our top level operator from and change that to or. And what we're going to do is give several different names that are common within a street name in order to identify whether they are a unit in a larger building or if they own the whole property themselves. So I'll start by adding a condition, and we're going to say if the mailing street, and then we'll use the term contains the static value of suite, and then click Save. So if the mailing street field contains data that has the string suite in it, then we will know that they have a unit within a larger building, and it will receive this tag. We're going to do the same thing for a couple other designations. So we'll go ahead and do the same for mailing street contains, and then we're going to do a static value of room, and we can click Save. I'll go ahead and do the same for our next one, which is going to be unit. Click Save. And then finally, we can do the same for an apartment. And then click Save. Once you have all of these designations here, you can go ahead and click the Save button. And now our tag is going to work as the data flows in from our different sources. Now, because we did add a tag and we changed our model, what we need to do is then click on the Publish button over here on the upper right side of the screen. and then put some new deployment notes. So we added data quality, steps, and tags. Once you've entered those notes, simply click Save. And now we have a version 2 that was published into our models page. So now that we have a new version, we actually need to deploy this new version into our repository. So in order to deploy this, we can actually stay on the Models tab here and simply click this green Deploy button on the right side of the screen. We can select the repository, which is going to default to our contact repository. Make sure that the model version is the latest version, and then click OK. Once the deployment is successful, you'll receive a confirmation screen. And now if you go into the repository, you should be able to see that you're running version 2 or 3, depending on how many updates you made during this training course. So now that our new model is set up with our data quality and tags, we need to go ahead and resubmit our SFDC records in order to have the new changes applied to them. So what you can do is go back to your AtomSphere platform. We can exit out of test mode and go back to the process canvas. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on the test button. I'll go ahead and run that test, and then it should only take a few moments to run successfully. Alright, so let's hop back into the MDM platform and open up the quarantine area to see what we have. So what we can notice is right off the bat, we have 17 total entries, which if you recall, is the same number of entries we had before, but now they're split up into a couple different designations. For instance, we only have 2 create approvals, and we still have our same 10 update approvals, but now we have these data quality errors that our remaining 5 have dropped into. What we can see is that they went through a data quality step and came out as an error. So what we can do is click on the hyperlink timestamp here next to one of these to see these a little further. We can see that the reason actually has the custom business rule that we created earlier. It says that the rule that it failed, or I should say that the data quality step it failed, is the business rule of valid phone and email that we created earlier. And it says the contact does not have the proper contact information. Please update the phone and email fields and resubmit. And if we look down here, we can see that there is no phone number associated with this particular record, which means that because it didn't have a phone number and email address, that it was kicked out and it was actually sent as an error. Another thing that's a little bit interesting is this type of error is actually a little different than the error that we saw before, because if we look at our actions, we have a whole new set of actions rather than the normal delete, resubmit, and approve. We actually have some other options such as retry enrichment step and ignore the enrichment failure. Just some more options that the data steward would have at their disposal. So that takes care of our data quality errors. Another thing I wanted to show is that in the update approval required section, if you click on that hyperlink timestamp, you can actually see something interesting here. It gives you a quick view of the different fields that would be updated if you were to let this record turn into or update a current existing golden record. So in this case, we can see that the account ID would change, the mailing street would change, the phone number would change, the created date and the last modified date would all change. But things that would remain the same are email, name, first name, and last name. So this actually gives you another way that the data steward would actually be able to look over all of this information to see if the fields that are changing are ones that should be allowed to be changed, and they just have pretty much total control over the information within the golden record or the repository area. And for our example, what I actually want to do is I want to allow these update approval requests to go through. So what I want to do is click on that hyperlink timestamp, click on the Actions button, and then click the Approve button. And we're going to do this for each of these records. So as I click the Approve, it's going to double check that I want this to happen. I'll go ahead and click OK. And then what it does is it automatically moves down the list. If you notice, we're on the second line now for our next golden record update request. So I'm actually going to just go through and go ahead and click approve. And you do have to do these one by one, but you can get through them pretty quickly since it automatically selects the next one as you go through the list. And that's the final one. Now we can see our quarantine area has been updated and now only 7 entries are left. Now another thing we can explore is if we go to the data sub-tab here, we can actually open this up and we can see a couple things. We can see that the old data from the MySQL source has actually been updated with the new SFDC data here. Now, this is something that you may or may not want to happen, but for our use case, it's not a huge deal. We can always run the MySQL to MDM process once again, and it would reset that back to the original way it was. However, now that we've actually set up our tags, we can add a filter here at the top where it says Add Filter, and you can actually click on the record tag and use the tag name. Now, if we had more than one tag, we'd be able to select which one we would like. But if I want to find all of the current contacts that have their mail going to an office that exists within another building, I can go ahead and click Apply. And what it will do is it'll cut out all of the different records that do not have that tag. And then we can see now we only have the ones that have addresses that have either the name suite in it, or room, or apartment, or things like that. So this is just another way that you can harness the tools within MDM in order to help you find and manage your data better. So that concludes exercise number 23 and 24. So now it's your turn to try them on your own. And once you've completed exercises 23 and 24, and you're seeing your data quality steps working properly, feel free to start the next video.